We're going to call this meeting to order at 1:07 p.m. Welcome. Today is Friday the 13th, and I can tell it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Let me just say, hospital is booming.
News.
So, oh yes. So, this is the Bylaws and Resolutions Advisory Committee meeting. Today is, what is today? What did I say? June 13th. And, I am the chairperson. My name is Laura Pangratz. We have another committee member here. So can you introduce yourself?
Joe Pelosa.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have any, Keith, is excused and Camilla is excused. Augie, must not be able to join us virtually today, so he's excused, which means then we do not actually have quorum for today. So, any further discussion, conversations will just be a discussion because no voting or anything like that, conducting of business will occur. And I realized I didn't update when I'm at the top of my agenda. That
It's 6 days.
yeah, it's still something. Forgot to
I said, did I take the
that
wrong
part,
thing? No.
you know.
So that means you don't have to invoke Robert's rules.
Yeah. So
My
let's see.
rules.
Is it okay, does anyone object to us to continue recording this bit of discussion then?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Our liaison is also here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Steve Jacobs, board liaison.
I know, it hasn't changed, right? No. But I like to, always introduce ourselves because there may be that one lone person who watches one of our meetings and says, who is that? You know?
Good looking guys.
Because I will say at the, volunteer appreciation dinner, one of the ladies that happened to be at the table that I was at, she came over, she goes, I recognize your voice. When we started talking, she goes, I've been listening to the committee meeting.
Okay.
So there is somebody who is not a board member, you know, who actually has listened to our meetings, and she listens to all of them. She said she has a long commute for work, a couple of times a week. So I said, well, as long as I'm not putting you to sleep while you're driving, we're good. But I thought that was very nice to know that somebody actually has listened to them. We do have a guest here today. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Bob Hilligus.
Thank you. Really don't have to approve the agenda since we can't really vote yay or nay, but this is what we have listed. We won't be able to approve the minutes from the May meeting, although I do have them, you know. So, right, we don't have quorum,
So
so,
you can't
yeah,
approve.
so we'll try and do that next month. Let's see, next up is public comments. So Bob, do you have any public comments that you want to make at this time?
No, I'll hold my public comments.
Okay. All right, chairperson's report. Here is my report. And there's a squirrel outside the door, or the window.
Oh, let's see. Here's, you should see it's true.
The squirrel, he was out by the window there.
Oh, okay.
So I did attend, for the first time in a while, in person, the directors meeting on May 23rd. I also attended the Ocean Pines Volunteer Appreciation Dinner on June 5th to represent the committee. And they remembered us this year, so that was good. I did email Linda to update the website with our February approved minute, because I guess I had not done that, since our last meeting, and the agenda for today. I also emailed her and requested this room for the second Friday of each month from 1 to 3 p.m. as we have always been meeting, but for the dates September through December to finish out 2025. Okay, and she did just reply to me early this morning that all of those dates are booked and saved for us, so there's no conflicts with any of them. So the next thing I have up to do is to attend June's directors meeting. Does anybody have any questions for me? A whole lot going on there. Um, Steve, do you have anything as liaison you want to share at this time, or?
No, I mean, we moved, 4 resolutions off, pending off the governance document.
Right,
B04, B07, C09, and M05. We just, they're unchanged. And for the motion, after they came up for first reading, I'm instructed to inform the bylaws committee that the board has finished considering it and is not going to take any further action, which I would do if we had a quorum, but since we don't have a
Right.
quorum, I can't do it. So anyway, but that's really about it.
Mhm.
The manual resolution
Mhm.
M08, I think it is, or B08, yeah, I think it's M08. Is still pending, but again, since the committee can take no action, it'll go back to the July meeting, I guess, to see whether or not. If there's no action in July, we start all over in September. So that's sort of where we are.
Anybody have any questions for Steve? And Robert's rules is not really instated since we're not at quorum anyway.
I don't want to be
So you may,
disrespectful and
yes,
break in.
you may,
Huh?
you may
I said, I
participate.
don't want to be disrespectful and break in. Did anybody look at MOA? The revised. copy?
I've read.
It's
through it
under new
twice.
business and I did send it out to everybody. I don't know if the others have looked at it or not.
I think whoever did the red line, it really well defines what it should be now.
I think that's legal, right?
Yeah, that was
Legal.
Bruce's work,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Not
just,
the final.
the only thing I found is there's about three periods missing at the end of
Oh.
the statements, which is.
That might be an editing thing as
Yeah.
opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
I read through his edits. I didn't find any of them controversial. I mean, I understand what he was doing, part of which was he doesn't want to require the board to have periodic reviews. The board should be able to do that of its own volition. Makes sense. I think the original language on that the committee originally offered right before Bruce reviewed it was just a function of time. Members of the committee of the board that wanted to make sure these changes were made, and so it was sort of a
Mhm.
compromise fix. You know, when the committee considers it, they'll take this up, but I don't see any of the edits that he provided as a problem.
Yeah, I do, yeah. All right.
I thought it looked good.
Yeah.
So under unfinished business, as stated, just for transparency and clarity, F01 had its completed second reading at the May directors meeting. F02 also had its second reading at the May meeting, and F03 also had its second reading at the May directors meeting. And if you jump down a bullet, as Steve said, B04, B07, C09, and M05 were all presented at the May directors meeting for a first reading, with the second reading planned for June. However, Steve, as our liaison, presented a motion to the board that was seconded and passed, stating that our liaison would be able to report back to us that these 4 resolutions having no proposed changes and would then be considered reviewed. Therefore, no second reading in June is necessary for these listed above. So that's just, we had shared that by email. So Keith said he had updated the governance tracker, so we'll double check that, but he should have put that in there as well for us.
I was looking at them as you went, and then you get too fast to really look at all. But I think he got them all updated.
Yeah.
The last thing under unfinished business status updates that I wanted to give is about our memorial brick, in memory of the past bylaws chairperson and committee member Jim Trummel. I received a confirmation letter that the check was received and the brick has been ordered. The organization will notify us when the brick has been received. And so I thank everybody who contributed to this special acknowledgement. So it says, thank you for your generous contribution to purchase a paver at the Worcester County Veterans Memorial. The paver has been ordered. Our fundraising efforts have been very successful. We must continue these efforts, however, to ensure that the memorial will be maintained in proper fashion. Your donation will help us in this endeavor. We will contact you as soon as we receive the paper. And then please check our website for future events at the memorial, and please join us for them. Signed, Marie Gilmore, the president. And she included a little brochure.
So when paper comes, he's telling us,
I believe they will tell
will they
us.
put it in?
I believe so,
Okay.
and they will let us know so that if we want to be
Watch.
there,
Right.
or contact Jim's family and let them know, you know what I mean? Then, we can schedule, I think is my guess then, that how that would work. She didn't really explain that in the letter,
Right.
but
You can probably
That's-
call her and just get the lay of the land.
yeah,
Because the foundation, I think I'm right, they sort of put together, for instance, the Memorial Day and Veterans Day
right,
events. So they're pretty easy just to get on the phone, and I know, 10 days, 2 weeks ago, there was a paper that was laid down for
okay.
it was a D-Day veteran, I don't quite remember.
Oh, for the, yeah.
And so I suspect,
Ends with a K.
you can find out from her,
Okay.
if there's a day that's set aside,
Right.
that we can let Jim's family know.
Right.
I think Joe Reynolds would want to know, I don't know who else. but,
Right,
you know,
okay. Okay.
And it may be worthwhile to see if, public affairs can just
Mhm.
sort of let people know, because, I mean,
It
Jim
is part of.
was
And even though it doesn't mention bylaws obviously on the paper,
No.
that's why we chose to honor him that way. To focus on his military part of it, but he was such an integral part of this committee for so long that,
Well, I think in terms of Ocean Pines being informed, there's probably a number of people, I mean, Jim lived here for
Yeah.
X number of years, I mean,
Any of his neighbors.
and, we should at least put the word out, we don't have to try and reach everybody on our own, but
Right,
at least put the word out so that people would know,
Yes.
Right.
this is what we're doing,
Yeah.
feel free to attend.
who would I
Rouse
reach
is
out
good.
to be able to get contact info for Jim's family? I mean, I have his
Oh.
email, however, and it said both of their names on it, so I'm assuming his wife would get that, but I don't know, since all of this has happened, what
I,
her status
I've only
is.
met her once, and that was
Do you
years
think
ago.
that's something that we can ask Linda for assistance with?
Yeah,
You gonna ask Linda?
yeah, I'd
You know?
that'd be good.
Even if she does the initial contact of say, can I give me a way to contact her, number wise?
Yeah, see if she has some information, explain to her why, if it's a problem, let me know, I'll try to clear the underbrush.
So we'll do that.
He was on this committee 3 times that I know of.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
And
Certainly something
it's
that-
good to see Marty Clark there. I hadn't seen him for a while. He's
who's that?
Marty Clark,
Oh, yeah,
He
he was at the dinner, yeah.
yeah. Suddenly got in trouble right at the dinner though. He had to turn his oxygen on.
Well, apparently,
Huh?
he and Joe Reynolds had a little bit of a.
Yeah,
back and
they
forth,
would.
but I mean, it was all good natured, I mean,
Yeah.
they've known each other for years, but
Yeah.
they were, it's like a little bit watching the tennis match.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Marty is good at that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have all
Two
the
of them are
records
missing.
now. I have all the records. I have Marty's and Jim's, so. Okay, so is there any questions about the updates in the old business part of it? New business, again, we can really only have a discussion. There's no final decision making on anything. And tell me if I needed to add anything else, but the only two things that I had on there was the M08 manuals, to go over and decide,
I have a question on the M08 manual.
mhm.
You can't approve it because we don't have a quorum. But could it be approved by email so it gets off the list and gets done? This thing has been dragging for 4 years. And you have an opportunity now of getting it through at the next meeting. If you can get. Is there any reason?
I'm sorry, are you asking whether or not
We're allowed to,
the board can approve this in
No.
an email vote?
No, whether this committee can approve it and give it back to you to present to the board that the committee approved it. I don't see why they couldn't do it by email vote.
Well, let me put it to you this way, as it applies to the board, because I'm not quite sure the same as, I've never looked, so I don't know. But as it applies to the board is taking an email vote. It must be unanimous, and B,
right.
there
No
has to be a
discussion.
record that says that each board member, yes, agreed to vote by email and then agreed to vote on the resolution.
I understand what you're saying. That wasn't my question. I misstated it.
No, the reason I'm saying that is because I don't know if the committee has the same liberty to do that. That's what I'm saying. to
Right,
you.
let me look up,
I'm trying to.
I just never checked. I don't know.
because Doug Parks just sent out not too long ago an updated committee protocols thingy, so.
Yeah, I'm trying
Committee
to remember.
protocol.
We did in the past and some of them. But it wasn't very often we didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, I don't. When I was on the committee, it was never.
Yeah,
it never came
I
up.
know what the board deal is.
I mean, the other way to do it would be, I would assume the committee could meet
It's gonna be.
I can even,
electronically.
I can even set up a Zoom call just for us, not,
And for one purpose,
right,
and as long as you follow the rules as to notice and publication of the agenda for that meeting and all that,
right,
you follow those rules, you can be done in 5 minutes. I mean, that's,
right.
That's the only reason I was saying, this thing has been dragging now for 4 or 5 years, and it's right at the point now that if this committee says they have no problem with it, you can get it back to the board and.
Vote.
be done.
yeah, look, we do have one more meeting in July.
Right,
There was, I think the notice went out. There's going to be a meeting after the board meeting on
June?
the June board meeting
mhm,
on the referendum. And the email that went to the board was, at the moment, there's two things on the agenda. One was N08. And I sent back a note saying, just to let you know, the bylaws is not yet acted on N08. It may not be up for second reading. But we do have a July meeting.
right.
And the July meeting,
And our July meeting is before that, July directors meeting.
well, yeah, that's what,
So
right.
we would
So
have time.
that's what I'm saying. I don't know that.
I think we can, I think we can wait and then make sure we have quorum at our July meeting. And then we can get
Yeah, because all I have, once that's done, all I need is an edited, red line and a clean,
right,
printout reflects the changes. I do a cover sheet, we get it on the agenda, we'll be done. It's
okay,
not that.
Yeah. There's no, you don't have to read the whole thing at the meeting because the board has it in their package and they've a chance to look at it and either agree or disagree.
Right.
And I don't feel like we can discuss B01 at the moment because the majority of our
Well,
committee is not here.
I'm just looking at B 01 has
Because,
a review date of May 27th. I assume that's 2027.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a month and a year.
it's a-
There's no date. Let me see what he said.
B01.
Yeah,
oh, okay, so he's got it as updated as May 9th. That we forwarded it to the board for consideration with no recommendation changes, so.
But I didn't raise
Hearing-
B01.
Yeah, so we're gonna assume it needs to be reviewed in 2 years then, is what I'm,
No, that's what I'm saying.
right?
I did not bring B01 up before the board.
Right,
So it is not one of the 4 resolutions that the
Okay.
board,
I'll have to double check with Keith then,
Yeah.
because based on his notes, then,
that might be a typo.
yeah,
could be.
it could be, because he's got it still highlighted in red. Red usually means overdue.
But again, I can bring that up at the July meeting
Right. Okay,
and follow it up with another motion, to
Yeah,
address the problem, and then it'll be updated.
um,
Third dot looks important.
you know what?
The third dot looks important.
That's just an accurate dot. That, oh, I think I left that there because when I send out the proposed agenda, that's where I would put if anybody said, hey, you forgot to list, and then I just didn't clean it up afterwards. So,
so there's a lot of them coming up.
okay, so he said,
Next.
so if we look at the governance tracker, then it looks like B02, 5, and 6 are all due, we're all due in May for review. But since we don't have quorum, the C04 is us, right? Yeah, C is, because he's got it listed as to be discussed at our next meeting, which,
Was today, but.
right,
not
right. So we'll just have to table those,
So you'd be able to handle it the same way then if next month they have a quorum at this meeting and they agree to give it to you and recommend to the board no changes required.
Yeah, we can certainly, I don't know what else.
That made it smooth.
I don't know what else is scheduled for the July meeting, so,
Right.
and I don't, no reason for it to, the board meeting to drag on multiple hours.
Right.
Well,
And so frankly, if some of these there's no recommended change and we know they're not very controversial, I don't have much problem if it sits until
if we do
September.
like, yeah.
I mean, we'd be a little behind, but
Mhm.
we basically have eliminated the huge backlog from years and years. ago.
yeah, it's better than getting a year behind.
B02 is rules of order for board meetings. B05 is conflicts of interest,
Yeah.
and B06 is indemnification policy.
None of those.
So,
They
So
could be a
none of
problem.
them strike me as total critical ones that need to be done. So we need to pause it until September, because as a reminder, we don't meet in August because of the transition, election results, annual meeting and all of that. We've always taken August off and just wait then for the new board. So July is like the last director's meeting with the current board. And then however it ends up forming September,
August,
the
Jerusalem
August
meeting.
results, then in September, when we start presenting stuff, it'll be whatever configuration the board is at that time. So,
Did we get ballots sent out? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay. What? Ballots for the
Yeah,
You should be getting them,
when am I gonna get my sign?
early. Huh?
When am I gonna get my sign?
We can't talk about that.
I have my sign in my yard.
July, I think the date is the sixth or something. They should go out in the mail and electronically.
Well, and I know from memory, I think it's on the 27th of June is the candidate forum, right?
Yeah. That, whatever that Friday is, yeah.
Interesting to see how the ballots come out, the electronic ballots, because I think it was last year I couldn't split them if I would have wanted to. I didn't want to, but you know, where you got two properties, you only got one ballot and then you voted
But
for
that
both
was,
properties on the same ballot.
two or three.
Huh?
I thought that was two or three.
And maybe it was. Yeah, I don't know. They
So,
did the
but
electronic.
They
and it
did,
was
I
quick.
did see a posting that there, the elections committee is requesting questions for that event. So if you want to send in a question ahead of time, they will include it in their list of questions and, go from there. But otherwise, that's all I had on the agenda. That we can, since we're not, since we don't have quorum, we're not, voting on anything. The only other point, is to say, the date of the next meeting is Friday. Let's see, look, I have to switch calendar book.
The 11th.
I know, I have to switch calendar books because this one was my 5-year planner. I had to get a new 5-year planner. So, but I have that down. Is there, double check your calendar, see if you're in town. I'll send out a reminder to everybody to find out. I know with the summer one, it's always a little tricky if people are doing vacations and stuff. But I did, and then we skip August. But if you go through your calendars and just look at the second Friday of every month, so September would be the 12th, October, it would be the 10th, November would be the 14th, and December, it would be the 12th. I stuck with the second Friday, hoping that the directors' meetings will fall after that, but again, we won't really know until the new board meets and all of that. And if we need to adjust the meeting dates then, I'm sure Linda will work with us on, if we need to move them or anything like that. So, but tentatively, that's what I've got.
I got your book through this thing.
Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss officially before we, turn off the recording?
Nothing to offer.
That's something to, oh, that's perfect. So, well, then we will adjourn.